Good afternoon. I'm conscious I'm following General Hicks from the US Army, and I hadn't really twigged that when I thought about an introductory sort of opening statement. But nonetheless, I'm going to press on. I'm also not going to talk about communication per se, as advertised in the agenda, but something slightly more broad, but I think chimes with what we've heard so far. William G. Harding was the 29th President of the United States quite some time ago, and he was well known as a eloquent and rather florid speaker. And the leading Democrat at the time likened his speeches to an army of pompous phrases moving across the landscape in search of an idea. Now, in some ways, much of what you read about data analytics, big data, and information can fall into that category. But I'll try and be a little more succinct and avoid such phrases. I'm here representing the IT, or sort of technical element of defence industry, and I'll try and put my case as succinctly as possible. The rapid evolution of technology has created a distributed digital world. Like the Royal Engineers and the Royal Artillery, data is everywhere, ubique, and presents new opportunities to capture value as well as new sources of risk. To compete, businesses must harness 100% of their data, regardless of source or scale, and generate the information and the actionable insight and foresight that can drive better business outcomes. By way of example, Marks & Spencer's uses data analytics to sift 250,000 job applications to fill its 35,000 vacancies, with only 2 human touchpoints during the entire process. First, to post the job vacancy, and second, meeting management for an assessment, and this saves both time and money. And in case you think that it's lacking the human touch, Marks & Spencer's recruitment candidate experience is rated at 98%. In another example, Ordnance Survey now only gets 5% of its revenue from selling maps. The rest comes from selling location-based services, data provision to the private sector. Nonetheless, there are several shifts required to achieve outcomes such as these. A shift from backward-looking hindsight, generated from information silos that have limited relevance to future business decisions, to predictable insight and foresight that are constantly refined and highly relevant to multiple areas of the business. A shift from limited relevance because you can only search a fraction of the available data, and very slowly, to data-driven decisions backed by powerful analytics solutions that connect to virtually any data source to harness all of your data quickly and easily. A shift from treating information as a liability because of inadequate tracking and indexing to treating information as an asset, balancing access and performance with oversight and compliance. For the MOD, the next decade could contain small and fast, high-risk contingencies and operations that demand the most effective and agile use of information against savvy and undemocratic adversaries. Information superiority is, after all, a competitive endeavour that needs to be fought and won. In the back office, the MOD has to contend with societal pressure and numerous forms of inquiry, for which efficient and compliant information systems and practices are essential. The potential to have unmanaged information, to miss opportunities or incur unnecessary risk must make certain information not just labelled a strategic asset, but treated as such. It should additionally compel better management at every level. Therefore, my thesis is that in common with business, the military can use the growth in data to create differentiation and core competitive advantage. But it's not just about the technology. And there are 3 lines to my argument. First, technology is in many ways the easiest place to start. There is no reason why the MOD cannot be data-driven from the ground up, with the new style of IT providing defence as a platform with a choice of software and services that can access, manage and analyse across more data types in the back office and on operations. You may not like the label big data, but the volume, velocity and variety of data within the MOD presents a growing challenge that needs the intervention to give the analysts and users a chance to think. Today, mundane tasks such as search and retrieve can consume huge amounts of time, whereas we need to create time to allow the analysts to use their skills and experience to add value, to anticipate and to tell the commander something he may not know or have considered. The key point here is that technology can not only harness more of your data, but critically provide the analyst with more time and space to make sense of all the data that is available, supporting and empowering human judgment. Secondly, we will need new processes and ways of working. In the context of the single information space, reflecting the world in which we live, and the single intelligence environment, the expectation of a single view in real time is overwhelming traditional C4 ISR in terms of volume, variety, bandwidth, and scalability across the intelligence disciplines. Research has indicated that as much as 80% of information used by intelligence services comes from open source. Increasingly prominent is the deluge created by social media. This is often thought as personal and anarchic, but it is now widely recognized as one of our greatest threats, as terrorist organizations use this channel to conduct their campaigns from influence to execution. Is this now the tool of choice for warfare in the information age? As the technology industry, we must help simplify the task. As leaders, we must focus on embedding a data culture and create a data-driven organization committed to ensure the processes are constantly developed and optimized to support information flows and exploitation. But what does that mean? It really means having a data strategy, defining key processes that support key information requirements and communicate them, gather and organize data from across the organization, implement robust data governance, and integrate analytics into existing routine, making them intuitive and more likely to be used. By valuing data as much as a commander's intuition and experience, data-driven organizations can leverage their analytic environments to produce meaningful information when and where it is needed. Thirdly, we will need people with new skills and competencies. While automation and machine learning will help optimize our data, we still need humans in the loop to bring real interpretation, insight, and understanding. This potentially requires new roles, such as the Chief Data Officer in the C-suite, to oversee how data and information is gathered, managed, protected, and exploited to further the organization's aims. And analytics, data scientists, data engineering, and data operations competencies in the engine room. It takes a significant investment and training to develop such a team with a broad range of specialisms. Demand for big data specialists is set to rise 160% between 2013 and 2020, according to the Tech Partnership. This UK IT industry body estimates there will be around 56,000 job opportunities a year for big data specialists by the end of this decade. It's about getting people who understand why the business needs data and finding experts with the skills to help make the most of that information. 91% of companies expect to increase their data science expertise within this year, and 37% of companies cite the lack of talent to run big data and analytics as the main challenge to implementing their projects. So returning to my thesis, the military can use the growth in data to create differentiation and core competitive advantage, just like business. But it's not just about the technology. It's about using technology to harness more data, to create time for the analyst to generate insight and foresight. It's about encouraging data-driven thinking and developing a data culture across the organization. And finally, it's about investing in and developing the right skills and competencies. Okay.